In the imperial palace of the great Xia dynasty, located in the capital city of a parallel world, the former emperor Tu Qianjun perished in battle. His fourth son, Tu Ye, ascended to the throne. However, Tu Ye was not the designated heir appointed by Tu Qianjun during his lifetime. Known as a complete wastrel, he indulged in debauchery and incompetence, yet he inherited the throne with the support of corrupt officials. This person, our main character, possessed Tu Ye's body. In his confused state he could scarcely believe it, thinking they called him Tu Yi, because he remembered that Tu Yi was the useless emperor. Not long ago, as a modern person, he was watching dance videos and discussing topics on a certain forum. Suddenly, he noticed a notification asking if he could go back in time, which dynasty he would choose. As he responded, he made a dismissive gesture, a forbidden finger technique, while questioning the meaning of such nonsense about dynasties and time travel that his laptop was suggesting. He dismissed the question as ridiculous. In a furious retort, he typed, "My dear, I mean crab demon, what's wrong with you? Going back to ancient times means risking all sorts of deaths, and you may not even end up as an emperor with 3,000 concubines. Being born in this era is the best. You should be grateful." And with that, he hit send. To his astonishment, in the blink of an eye, he was transported there, complaining, "Is hell sama kidding me? This is ridiculous time travel. They threw me into the ghostly Qian dynasty with a crappy setup." His system, the Pixui bracelet, a national downfall system, was activated, greeting him as its host. It introduced itself as his AI assistant, a downfall bracelet, which he could call Downy for short. Stunned by the system's name, he wondered if it was playing a trick on him. The system explained that it was generated from the host's desires. Simply put, as long as he brought about the downfall of the Qian dynasty, he could return to his original world. "Good luck," it said. "I will assist you with all my might." While pondering the system's words, he wondered if it was telling the truth, as he had never heard of such a bizarre time travel setup. Meanwhile, a girl beside him, presumably one of his concubines, was puzzled by the sudden zoning out of their usually useless prince. She poked his cheek, sensing something different about him. She staring at him like that. Our perverted MC was turned around and looked at her, while the girl was shocked and sweating. And as he looked at her, our perverted MC was shocked to find that he could see her stats and traits. It was as if he were playing a game, allowing him to analyze a person's data. The girl's stats showed a political power of 32, Machiavellianism of 79, martial prowess of 44, conquest of 35, and charisma of 90. However, her rebellion score was 45, indicating she was not loyal to him. From the girl's perspective, she wondered if it was her imagination that, in an instant, when the prince gazed at her, a spark flashed in his eyes, changing the atmosphere. Our MC realized that this beautiful lady was arranged by Zhao Zhuo to monitor him. Despite this, he thought he could win her over anyway. So what was the point? As they stared at each other, Li Tianyuan, the Prime Minister, spoke up. "Your Highness, it seems you've been distracted for a while. Is something bothering you?" Paying his respects, our MC realized that these were the two corrupt officials mentioned earlier. He could see their information too. Li Tianyuan was indeed a manipulative minister who aspired to crown himself emperor, while Zhao Zhuo also harbored the highest level of rebellion and the same ambition to become emperor. Our MC says that Li Tianyuan's political power and Machiavellianism values were off the charts, and Zhao Zhuo's values were slightly lower, but he appeared to have no weaknesses, like a hexagonal warrior. The girl thought it was the first time she had seen such a cold gaze from the prince, finding it terrifying yet strangely exhilarating. Zhao Zhuo, holding a chicken bone, suggested to Li Tianyuan that the prince was probably worried about someone seizing his throne, which was why he seemed unstable. The prince replied that he wished the throne would become unstable sooner, so that the country would fall, as he drank. The girl was amazed, noting that even in the face of insults from her adoptive father, he remained calm. She wondered when the prince had become so inscrutable. Zhao Zhuo continued his provocation, saying that the late emperor's will before his death was for Tu Su, who was leading troops outside, to ascend the throne. Our MC realized that the previous emperor's designated heir was Tu Su, who was currently outside the capital leading troops, and not him. Zhao Zhuo was going against the late emperor's will and preparing to support the prince's ascension to the throne, while slandering the late emperor and topping the coffin with it. He approached the prince, showing a disgusting look and the imperial seal, suggesting that they issue a decree to allow Tu Su to accompany the late emperor in death, smiling evilly. Our MC thought that if these two followed their plan and issued the decree to kill Tu Su, he would secure the throne, but it wouldn't help achieve his mission of destroying the country quickly. With the imperial seal, he would be like a puppet in their hands. In the last moments of the late emperor, these two treacherous ministers defied his last wishes and conspired to crown a useless prince as emperor to control the realm. He couldn't just watch dramas. There were no cute girls to watch, only manipulation by these two old coins. He didn't want to live like that, so he wondered what he could do. As he looked at the imperial seal shining in the old pig's eyes, he sneakily snatched it away, thinking, "Why don't I just take them down?" The old pig was shocked and didn't expect that, shouting, "What are you doing?" Our MC thought that if Tu Su died, it would be as if the Qian dynasty was finished a perfect plan to complete his mission. The old pig looked like a child who had been robbed of a lollipop, asking him what he meant by doing that, while trying to take it back. Our MC was toying with him, turning his face away from the imperial seal. He declared that now, as the emperor, he would keep the imperial seal. He proclaimed that the decisions of life and death were his to make. Meanwhile, the girl watched in amazement, thinking that Her Highness, originally a man, had the audacity to confront her adoptive father in such a manner. Lustful thoughts crossed her mind as he lectured the old man, whom she referred to as a pig. She considered his words domineering and noted his emotional facial expressions and tense body language, which she thought befit a bold man. She blushed, wondering if his previous behavior had been an act. As he continued to toying the old man, who was now panicking and sweating, the girl speculated that with the imperial seal in his hands, his true nature would be revealed. She assumed her adoptive father must be seething with anger, and she was right. The old man began to rage like a madman, accusing Tuye was arrogance before even ascending the throne. He warned that if he had the power to elevate him, he also had the power to bring him down. However, his threats had no effect on him, which only led our MC provoked him even more. Bai challenged him to finish her off, and by provocatively licking the imperial seal. And because of it, the old man couldn't contain himself and argued that he would choke him to death, but his daughter intervened, pleading with him to calm down. At this point, Li Tianyuan stepped in to mediate, reminding them that they shared the same goal and needed to remain calm. Observing Li Tianyuan's composure, our MC considered an evil plan to dominate him by adding fuel to the fire. In response, he deliberately dropped the imperial seal, leaving the two old men stunned. Our MC claimed his hand had slipped, mocking them with his actions. Li Tianyuan, furious, wanted to finish him immediately, stating that the imperial seal symbolized the destiny and authority of the Qian dynasty. It was the emperor's command to the courtiers and a token of ruling the world. Breaking the imperial seal was a capital offense, and he doubted that him could withstand such provocation. As the old man was about to explode in anger and attack him, Li Tianyuan stopped him. He apologized to him, addressing him as their highness, and say a joke that the whole world belonged to him, so a piece of jade was insignificant. If it broke, it was not a big deal. While he was confused by Li Tianyuan's words, he then suggested it was getting late and they should rest early to discuss other matters another day. As they were leaving, our MC shouted for them to stop, declaring himself the new emperor and asserting that all people, including himself, were equal under the law. He begged them to kill him then and there, but they ignored him. The scene then shifted to the residence of the old man, where they debated how to eliminate our MC. Li Tianyuan warned of the consequences of such an action. The old man, referred to as Zhao, questioned what those consequences might be, calling Li Tianyuan a spineless fool for still addressing Tu Ye as their majesty. But Li Tianyuan explained to the foolish old man that with Prince Tu Su leading troops outside, if Tu Yi died in the capital under suspicious circumstances, they would be the prime suspects, as they were trusted by the late emperor. The broken imperial seal meant they had lost a bargaining chip against Tu Su. Their only option was to rely on Tu Ye, our MC, to ascend the throne, use him, and then dispose of him when the time was right. But not yet, as he say. The old man understands it now, and asked if Li Tianyuan was suggesting that Tu Ye had deliberately broken the imperial seal to prevent him from killing Tu Su. Li Tianyuan confirmed this, adding that originally, Tu Su was an obstacle on Tu Ye's path to the throne. But now, with Tu Ye's ascension a certainty, he had to reconsider his relationship with Tu Su. And it is said that on the continent of the otherworld, with various countries vying for dominance and countless lives suffering, the Qian dynasty ultimately pacified the region and unified the northern continent. Apart from Tu Su, who holds heavy military power, his presence makes both you and me tread carefully in the court, unable to overshadow our main character, Tu Ye. If they press Tu Ye too hard, he might allow Tu Su to enter the capital and ruin their plan, which they dare not risk. Tu Ye might even use a triangular relationship to control them. However, the old man Zhao Zhuo says that old Li Tianyuan was overthinking it. He questions whether the young Tu Ye has the brain to calculate that far, as he slanders him. Li Tianyuan reminds him of what Tu Ye said a moment ago. Aren't the emperor and common people equal under the law? He asks if Zhao Zhuo knows whose words those are. Those words belong to the chief minister of the Qian dynasty, Wei Xingluo, from 100 years ago. Back then, Minister Wei was greatly favored by the Qian king, wielding immense power and virtually above everyone else. But because he lost the Qian king's trust, he was sentenced to death by dismemberment. Old Zhao says he is not Wei Xingluo. He will never bow to our MC. All he relies on is Tu Su's military strength. Since he hasn't issued any orders, he will send someone to kill Tu Su himself and then pin it all on him, and the result will be the same. Li Tianyuan, hearing Zhao's words, sighs, thinking that their previous support for Tu Ye was because he was the easiest to control among the late emperor's many sons. But now, it seems that Tu Ye is something special, and this excites him. Laughing in his mind, he says that the late emperor's descendants are truly amusing. After that, in our main character's room, he was sleeping but woke up suddenly, saying that it was so boring there, criticizing the food and games. He had to read memorials that he didn't even recognize a single character of, shouting that there was nothing good there and it was so boring without phones or computers. He was going to die of boredom. But then he noticed his concubines entered and said that she needed to attend to him in the bedchamber while blushing. Our main character realized that he took back what he said and started to feel excitement. After a long, happy night of fighting, our main character was satisfied and enjoyed it. While smoking, he said that he couldn't control it. As he got up, he said that to finish his mission, he had to trouble her. He noticed her wearing a hairpin and said, "Who would have thought it could become the key tool for me?" To complete his task of destroying the country and returning to his modern world, he smiled as he hatched some plan. He said to Zhao Shu while drinking, "Aren't you actually a spy placed by old Zhao Zhuo at my side?" She was scared hearing those words, wondering how it was possible, thinking how she was exposed, saying that was impossible, while making excuses to him, not understanding what he was talking about. He didn't care about the apparent relationship between her and Zhao Zhuo. He said, looking at her, "The old man Zhao placed you by my side just to monitor and control me, right?" He asked her how it felt to be exposed on the spot, saying that he really enjoyed that game of playing with her. Otherwise, being an emperor was very boring. She was shocked and sweating, not expecting it, thinking that her adoptive father deliberately sent her to him. It's just a game. Thinking of what he said to her, that by coming clean to him, it meant that our main character was tired of that game, so she was going to act to kill him. While he deliberately acted like he was sleeping there, to give her a chance to make her move, she now got his hairpin, thinking if her identity is exposed, and she lost her value to her adoptive father too, the only way to redeem herself was to kill him. Now moving towards him, while he was pretending to sleep there, the system notification popped up saying that his national downfall system upgrade was complete, and he will continue to serve him as always. He asked the system what the system upgrade was. The system said to him that to make his mission goal clearer, the upgrade adds a national PowerPoint system. The system integrates political, economic, military, cultural, and other indicators of Qian's national strength to derive national power points. As long as he lowers the national power points below 0, the mission of the downfall of the country is considered complete. It reminded him that the initial national power points are 1,000. Now, as he heard it, even if he were killed now, as long as the national power points aren't cleared, it's still considered a mission failure. With the current value, even if he dies, it won't lead to clearing the points. Right now, at this moment, Zhao Shu was going to kill him, thinking that His Majesty is probably testing her again. But she had no way out but to kill him. But at this moment, our main character dodged it and held her hand. She thought that, sure enough, she had been played by His Majesty's acting skills once again. In our main character's thoughts, he was trembling, saying that it was so close, he almost died there meaninglessly. But the girl was consistent in trying to kill him and acted again. But her foot slipped, and she fell, crying helplessly at her own mistake. Our main character was smiling, thinking while looking at her. That being a warrior with only a martial prowess value of 44, trying to kill him, was a bit overconfident. Then he got the hairpin and pointed it at her, saying to her that she was too eager and got triggered by just a few words from him. He scared her, saying that her skill was not that of a qualified spy. The girl just cried and fainted. As she fainted, she dreamed that the assassination failed and she was going to die. As she opened her eyes, she asked where she was now because she was supposed to be by His Majesty's side. But suddenly, her adoptive father showed up, saying to her that the task he assigned to her had failed. While she was explaining it to him, her adoptive father was smiling and telling her that if she couldn't handle such a small matter, he would have to punish her. She screamed and woke up from her dream. Because of that scream, our main character teased her, asking if she was having a nightmare. She was confused and asked him if he was not going to kill her. He said to her, while stretching, that it was a game. Not only was he not going to kill her, but he would also pretend to be unaware and let her pass on the message for him. He started to write to make the game interesting, drafting an interesting imperial decree. While writing like a madman, the girl thought that His Majesty was showing a terrifying expression and that he must be preparing to take action against her adoptive father again. But our main character failed to write it, making excuses that writing with a brush was so difficult. While maintaining a cool and stable composure, the girl thought that His Majesty had finished writing so fast. But in a moment, our main character could not stop and called for some help from her to help him write. She was shocked by it, and now our main character was forcing her to do it for him. She said that she didn't know what decree he wanted to draft. He said to her, "Just write that all descendants of the Tu family, including Tu Su, are to be stripped of the Tu surname and demoted to commoners." While she was thinking about why he wanted to abolish his own family kin, she said that she didn't understand it, and asked him the reason why she, as a servant, had to draft such a decree. Our MC was smiling, thinking that according to the system, weakening the influence of the Tu family was the simplest way to deduct points. Demoting the descendants of the Tu family to commoners would not only deduct a large number of points, but also help portray him as a ruthless tyrant to the outside world. It was simply a perfect plan. Seeing him smile like that made the girl sweat, but he asked her why she had asked. She said that she was being too talkative and asked for his forgiveness. Our MC said that it was to increase the difficulties of the game. While touching her face, he said that with that decree, he would not only become a lonely man without the support of his family, but also bear the reputation of a ruthless tyrant. The girl was cooperative and blushing. He also said that he had her draft the decree, and she would also tell others to pass the message to her adoptive father as good news, asking if her adoptive father would surely be delighted. He said to consider it as an information gift from him to her. She thought of it as a gift for her, thankful for it because she had never received a gift from childhood to adulthood. While our MC was manipulating her, he thought, "Don't let me down." Even though he was deceiving her, she still felt happy about it. Now, at Zhao Zhou's residence, she was knocking on the door of her adoptive father. The old man asked her why she was so late and just coming now. As the two of them came inside, Li Tianyuan was there and asked her if she brought important information. She replied that their Majesty, Tu Ye, decreed that all the Tu family royals be demoted to commoners. The two of them were shocked, and old man Zhao panicked, asking Li Tianyuan if he had just had the intention to establish a new emperor from among the Tu family descendants, and obviously that brat kid was targeting them. Li Tianyuan was thinking and asked her how she obtained such important information and if it was reliable. With a shy tone, she said that their Majesty asked her to personally draft that decree. Hearing what she said, her adoptive father slapped her hard in a furious state, calling her a bastard and asking her if she also leaked their secret. She said that she didn't, while crying, but he didn't believe her. He accused her of acting and said that it was she who wanted to use Tu Ye to deal with him. That's why he had her draft the decree. While scolding her, Li Tianyuan stopped him, telling him to calm down and explaining the situation. If she had leaked the information, how would he and Zhao Zhuo know about the decree? He said that it was Tu Ye's scheme to sow discord, and also to deter them from establishing a new prince. He felt ashamed of how he acted towards his adoptive daughter, and suddenly asked for her forgiveness, realizing that he was wrong. Changing his demeanor, he asked her if she didn't blame him for that. She replied that she didn't dare and understood it. The two old men looked at each other, and Zhao Zhuo asked Li Tianyuan if his plan of establishing a new prince had failed, suggesting that, with his bright plan, they could rally the courtiers and thoroughly humiliate the brat Tu Ye during his first court session. Li Tianyuan was doubtful, saying that his plan was... But before finishing his words, he changed his mind and said to forget it and do as he pleased, thinking that Zhao Zhuo wasn't someone who could make big decisions, and that he should also have his own plans. After that, in the palace, our MC was sitting there, thinking if the decree was ready. The only thing left to do was to announce it, but he said that it was still far from clearing the points to 0 to finish his mission. He said that careful consideration should still yield many methods to deduct national power points. He remembered that in history, a tyrant who caused the downfall of a country, apart from trusting treacherous ministers, also ignored state affairs, forcibly took women from the populace, and recruited concubines from everywhere. Because of this, his excitement exploded, and he said that this was how it would be done. Since the late emperor's body hadn't even gone cold, he would decree to forcibly take the female relatives of all the countries into their palace to serve, which would definitely make them feel chilled. Thinking this, not only could he deduct a large number of points, but he could also benefit himself. Because of this brilliant scheme, his mission would be easy as a piece of cake. He then ordered his servant to summon Zhao Zhuo and Li Tianyuan to come there immediately. Now that the two of them were there, our MC welcomed them with excitement, urging them to sit down and feel at home. He mentioned that Li Tianyuan greeted him as Your Majesty, while Zhao Zhuo was visibly in a bad temper, seemingly annoyed. However, as Li Tianyuan extended his greetings, old Zhao promptly sat down, questioning the new emperor about familiarizing himself with the courtiers' affairs for the following day. As he inquired, the old man contemplated another sinister plan, chuckling inwardly at the thought of discussing matters with the ministers of the Zhao faction in court later. He was confident they would band together to prevent the emperor from stepping down the next day. Meanwhile, our MC was excited about the impending consequences of his actions, pondering over the diligent governance bonus they would receive. He mused that it would be unwise to hold court immediately after ascending the throne. While drinking and raising his left hand, he declared that holding court was a hassle and admitted his lack of experience as the newly crowned emperor. Nonetheless, he expressed his trust in them to manage court affairs, all the while winking at them. Li Tianyuan realized that indeed, His Majesty had rejected Zhao Zhuo's request to hold court. He speculated, with an intense gaze, that it wasn't only Tu Ye, our MC, who guessed that Zhao Zhuo wanted to suppress him in court, but also that he had cleverly brought up a reason to trust them as his ministers, making the argument irrefutable. He thought Zhao Zhuo's shallow schemes were completely inadequate compared to his own. Our MC stretched his body with a devilish smile, indicating it was time to unveil his plan to recruit concubines and deduct points. With a smile on his face, he announced that they needed to halt discussions about court affairs for now. He explained that the reason he had summoned them was to discuss something else. With a composed and slightly blushing demeanor, he confessed that as the emperor, having only Zhao Shu in his harem was rather embarrassing. Therefore, he decided to gather beautiful women and expand his harem. Upon hearing this, old man Xiaoshuo was taken aback, cursing under his breath about the late emperor's body not yet being cold, and our MC already thinking with his desirous. He also remarked that he had never seen such a shameless person, and also, Li Tianyuan was shocked, realizing that Tu Ye had specifically summoned them for an audience to discuss matters unrelated to state affairs. He wondered about the purpose of the harem recruitment. Confused, our MC confirmed that it was correct and expressed his desire to resolve the matter quickly, happily thinking about clearing his national power points sooner rather than later. The two of them reacted by thinking of him as a damn perverted emperor. Zhao Zhuo, wiping his sweat and pretending to agree, supported the idea of gathering beauties from all over the world. However, he cautioned against haste while addressing our MC formally for the first time as Your Majesty. Our MC responded with a high-spirited aura, raising his hand and shouting that he understood. They couldn't rush to gather beauties from all over the world, so they would start by searching for beauties within their capital. Upon hearing our MC's words, Old Man Zhao became even more surprised and irritated, thinking him a greedy pervert and questioning the necessity of such impatience. He pondered Li Tianyuan's opinion on the matter, warning him in his mind not to be misled by their brat majesty's pretext of gathering beauties. He suspected the focus was probably on the capital. While old Zhao was contemplating this, our MC added that he had come up with the most time-saving and effortless method, suggesting they start by selecting from the female relatives of the ministers in their court. This revelation surprised Li Tianyuan, who realized the truth. He had devised a good plan to use him even more. But let's not spoil further. Let's continue. After their meeting concluded, Zhao Zhuo and Li Tianyuan walked away, discussing how Tu Ye was ignoring state affairs and seeking to expand his harem, a rhythm akin to a true tyrant. Zhao Zhuo believed the brat was digging his own grave by assuming the emperor's position, which would save them much effort in taking him down. Li Tianyuan halted, shouting at Zhao Zhuo to stop. Old Zhao, shocked and sweating, was met with a stern Li Tianyuan, who warned that underestimating their majesty would lead to the execution of their entire families. Apologizing for losing his composure, Li Tianyuan explained that the majesty's actions were all part of a cunning strategy. Old Zhao, confused, questioned the strategy, and Li Tianyuan revealed that Tu Ye had foiled his plan to embarrass him in court, showing he knew their intentions inside out. Old Zhao was incredulous, as they had been summoned immediately after making their plan, with no chance for leaks. Li Tianyuan argued that Tu Ye's anticipation of their plan was what made it so terrifying. Besides not holding court, Tu Ye's desire to expand the harem might seem indulgent, but it was actually a cohesive chain of strategies aimed at them. Old Zhao, sweating, asked for clarification on this cohesive chain of strategies. Li Tianyuan explained that Tu Ye's confidence in not holding court stemmed from his belief that he could still control state affairs without it. By taking the female relatives of the courtiers into the harem, he could win over ministers through marriage and undermine their influence in court. Frightened, old Zhao asked what they should do. Li Tianyuan, smiling, said there was nothing they could do. Tu Ye was the new emperor and naturally wanted to expand the two-family bloodline in the harem. Turning to old Zhao with a devilish smile, Li Tianyuan stated that as subjects, they had to fulfill his wishes. Days later, in the palace side hall, Li Tianyuan approached Tu Ye, addressing him as Your Majesty, and reported that per his orders, all descendants of the Tu clan had been demoted to commoners, except for the eldest prince, Tu Su, who was stationed outside and had not yet received the decree. Tu Ye raised his hand, signaling to stop, stating those matters were not important and would be discussed later. He swiftly turned the conversation to the selection of his harem. Without further ado, Li Tianyuan assured they had not failed his command, but due to limited time, he asked for forgiveness. Clapping his hands, he called for the women to come out and let His Highness take a look. Our MC, excited, beheld the beautiful women who appeared, and he was so amazed he even drooled, thinking he was in paradise. Li Tianyuan stood silently, ashamed of his reaction. As the women greeted him as Your Majesty, our MC happily returned their greetings. Surprised by this, Li Tianyuan approached Tu Ye and asked if, among the concubines recruited, there were any who liked to indulge. Li Tianyuan, sweating, admitted he was not quite sure what Tu Ye meant by indulge. Tu Ye, suspecting Li Tianyuan was pretending to be innocent, thought that even if he hadn't heard of indulgence before, as a man, he should understand the context from the conversation. Li Tianyuan feared Tu Ye was growing suspicious of him, knowing that most of the concubines brought into the palace were from influential noble families, which seemed reasonable on the surface and raised no issues, except for two women, Fan Taozhu and Zhu Geisha, whom he mentioned. He also says that over a decade ago, during the reign of Emperor Qian of the Great, Qian dynasty, the two prominent families, the Fan family and the Zhuge family, offended the late emperor, and were wiped out. On impulse, he secretly saved 2 young girls during the execution. For the past decade or so, he has kept their identities hidden and raised them by his side. Unexpectedly, both of them inherited the talents of their predecessors and became important pawns in his hands. He revealed that the story involved Li Tianyuan talking to Aju and Asha, telling them that Emperor Tu Tianjun, who exterminated their entire family, had already died. Upon hearing this, both showed a furious look. Li Tianyuan questioned whether they harbored any resentment since they couldn't take revenge personally, but now an opportunity for the 2 clans' downfall presented itself, albeit with great risk. The new Emperor, Tu Ye, was not only cunning but also depraved and cruel, even more terrifying than Tu Qianyun. Aju declared she was willing to die 1,000 times for revenge, and Asha had long been prepared to sacrifice herself. Li Tianyuan, amused, thought this was the perfect opportunity to place both by Tu Ye's side under the guise of selecting concubines, ensuring no one would suspect anything. Our MC, using his special ability, the Eye of Perverted Sight, with his tongue out and eyes shining, noted that the 2 misses were exceptional. Li Tianyuan was shocked, wondering if Tu Ye had noticed. Our MC analyzed their status and capabilities. Zhuge Sha, the granddaughter of the prominent scholar Zhuge Tiangang during Emperor Tianjun's reign, was the sole survivor of the Zhuge family after their extermination. Adopted by Li Tianyuan, her political power was 32, Machiavellianism 90, martial prowess 20, conquest 35, charisma 83, and rebellion 96. Fan Taozhu, the granddaughter of the wealthy merchant Fan Suiyan during Emperor Tianjun's reign, was the only survivor of the Fan family after their extermination. Also adopted by Li Tianyuan, she approached him to seek revenge and destroy the country. Her political power was 37, Machiavellianism 96, martial prowess 82, conquest 66, charisma 26, and rebellion 66. After checking them out, he turned to Li Tianyuan, smiling, thinking that these 2 misses were originally planted by Li Tianyuan as undercover agents. He praised the move, saying that such snake-like and scorpion-like beauties who stir up trouble in the harem are the standard configuration of a tyrant who leads a country to ruin. Approaching them like a perverted brat, he complimented the 2 misses on being quite exceptional and asked their names. The girl in the red dress introduced herself as Aju, and the girl in purple as Asha, both addressing him as Your Majesty. Our MC, getting close to Asha's face, noted she seemed a bit nervous. Li Tianyuan panicked, remembering Asha's introverted nature and fearing she might reveal herself under Tu Ye's imposing aura. Our MC touched her face, reassuring her that there was no need to be afraid, as he was actually very approachable. The girl closed her eyes quietly, but our MC continued to tease her, causing her to lose control and confess she couldn't take it anymore. The system informed him that Zhuge Sha's identity was unknown to others and had not been recorded in the system's hidden attribute. In a state of emotional tension, being touched by the opposite sex in sensitive areas, including but not limited to the chin, would cause her to faint due to embarrassment. And our MC was shocked because of it, and also Aju and Li Tianyuan were shocked. But because of this, Li Tianyuan became more panicked, while our MC didn't expect it. Feeling ashamed, he thought it was supposed to be a scene of favor to win Li Tianyuan's heart. He didn't expect Zhuge Sha's tolerance to be so low. She messed up his performance, and he said that now Li Tianyuan would be afraid of her identity being exposed and would surely find an excuse to replace her. While thinking that, Li Tianyuan was looking at him and suddenly knelt to him, saying that he neglected his duty and made an improper selection, causing that woman to behave improperly in front of him. He said that he deserves to die and will take care of that woman immediately. While acting like that, our MC told him that there is no need for that, sweating and thinking that the only plan now is to forcefully continue with the act. He acted fast and picked up the girl, saying that he likes that type that can't resist with just a little teasing. He told Li Tianyuan that the people he selected truly captured his heart. Aju, hearing those words, thought if the guy was really a tyrant because it seemed like he was just a pervert. Li Tianyuan wiped his sweat and thanked him if that was the case. Our MC said it's decided that tonight Asha will serve him in his bed, making perverted looks. Aju thought that he would pay for that sooner or later, and cursed him. As she cursed him, our MC turned around and looked at her, wondering why the girl was looking at him with such dissatisfaction. She wondered if it could be. He asked her if she also wanted to serve him in bed, showing that impression, and suggested they play three-person landlords tonight instead. Aju's reaction was like this. Now in our MC's bedroom, as he approached them, our MC thought that among the beauties in the place, these two young ladies were the most outstanding for him. The two of them looked at him, and our MC also remembered that his system showed that they approached him to destroy the country, which could be well utilized. He remembered that they were secretly adopted by Li Tianyuan and specially sent to him, thinking they must have extraordinary qualities. He said it was a pity that the system only displayed basic information and ability indexes, and he wasn't quite sure what special skills they had for destroying the country. In his deep thinking, Aju thought about what he was thinking, and they looked at each other, clearly resolved to sacrifice themselves. They thought our MC would use all sorts of methods to humiliate them and force them to submit to him. They were scared just a little bit and sweating. Our MC stood there, looking at them with a serious face. Seeing Aju thinking that doing nothing made him appear even scarier, she also remembered that when Li Tianyuan brought them in, he reminded them not to worry about their identities because Tu Ye never prepared disguises to ensure he couldn't uncover their backgrounds. He also said that Tu Ye was cunning, despite being lustful, and that Zhao Zhuo had already given him Zhao Shu, who was not only their ally, but also their competitor. If they wanted to gain Tu Ye's trust, they must show extra value beyond just beauty. He believed they knew how to demonstrate their additional value to him. While they remembered that and lost in thought, our MC asked what they were thinking, being so lost in thought. He started to ask them a question about any special talents or skills they had. The two of them thought it was expected as Li Tianyuan had said to them. Sha said she was skilled in fortune-telling, stargazing, handwriting analysis, talisman making, health prevention medicine, and alchemy. Our MC smiled, thinking if that was the strength of the daughter of a great alchemist and scholar. The girl also said she had good skills in the bedroom, blushing her face. But our MC is not an idiot. Despite fainting from just a touch of him due to her temperament, she still dares to claim she has good skills in the bedroom. As Asha finished speaking, he turned to ask Aju. While Aju observed him, she thought that judging by his expression, he didn't seem quite satisfied with Shah's answers. Coming from a merchant family involved in various business dealings since she was young, accompanying her grandfather, Aju not only excelled in financial calculations, but also in understanding human nature. However, her grandfather's experiences taught her that possessing both of those skills could easily arouse suspicion from those in power. The key to revenge is self-preservation, showing their value and presenting themselves as harmless. Remembering her past, she told him that as a weak woman, she didn't have any special talents or skills. Proudly stating this to his face, our MC thought that she absolutely couldn't mention being good at financial calculations or understanding human nature. The girl also mentioned that even though she came from a noble family, both her parents were deceased, and the only thing she had to offer was the vast wealth passed down from her family. She thought it was better than the image of a helpless, wealthy young woman with no family. Saying that our MC was shocked and remembered Batman's wisdom, saying that his superpower is being wealthy. He wondered if her deceased yet wealthy parents made her the alternate universe version of Batman. Implying those words, he thought about how both of them could contribute to the cause of destroying the country. Delighted by this thought, he told them that as the ruler of their nation, he couldn't be interested in Miss Aju's wealth. Instead, he asked her if she would be willing to manage the national treasury for him. While the girl was slow to pick it up of our MC words, and her reaction was this. But as she realized it, she was shocked and didn't expect it. While our MC was laughing and thinking that Fan Taoju comes from a profit-oriented merchant family, adept at embezzlement and financial fraud and causing economic collapse can be entrusted to her. Thinking that, he say to Asha as for her as from the family of scholars and historical. He say that a tyrant always had a penchant for those obsessed with cultivating immortality. Since she say that she was so talented, our MC appointed her as the female national teacher, and a slow add up that she oversee the royal hospital and be responsible for his longevity through alchemy. As Asha heard this, she was also shocked. While our MC thinking that he will entrust the task of depleting his body to her, while he was proudly saying he was a genius to make that plan to success his mission. In truth, our MC didn't know that this was truly their profession. Nevertheless, he mentioned that there was something important he wanted to say before he forgot. Now that Shaw was the national teacher, when she saw him in the future, she needed to wear her Taoist robe. He happily thought it would make for good cosplay scenes, though he was confused. The two of them had no idea what our MC was implying as they looked at him. Our MC, nose bleeding, wondered about it, and suggested that since they were going to cosplay, they should go all out. Having cosplay parties in the palace harem might not be a bad idea, he said it with excitement. After that it shifted into the study room of old Zhao's mansion. The elder was deeply engrossed in writing. As he penned his thoughts, he murmured, "If that brat Tuye refuses to accept the imperial edict, then I will personally see to it." Clutching a jade seal, he mused, "As long as the Lord is willing, he can be easily replaced." Though he acknowledged Tusu's skill in leading troops, he also deemed him not very bright, which made him blindly loyal. Even if the imperial decree orders him to commit suicide immediately, he will comply without question, he said. Once Tusu is eliminated, Tuye will have no reinforcements, and will be at my mercy. Smiling at his plan, he summoned his servant. General Zhaosen of the Zhaozhuo family entered and knelt in greeting. Old Zhao instructed him, "You must immediately head to Lingtong City in the northern country, and deliver this imperial decree to Commander Tusu of the northern garrison." He proudly declared, "You are to witness Tusu's suicide and bring back his head. I intend to present it as a gift to His Majesty." Zhao Xin acknowledged the orders and was ready to start to go. Unbeknownst to them, a spy had overheard the decree and hastily relayed the news to his leader, Lord Xiao, using eagle messengers. Now, with the birds having flown away, Zhao Xin's army made their way through the forest toward the north. Along their path, an ambush awaited. Xiao's army perched atop the trees, ready to strike because of the decree Zhao Xin carried. Xiao's, now in command, raised her hand to signal the start of their assault. "Prepare to," she began, but before she could finish, her foot slipped, and she fell. While her colleagues were shocked to see her falling, she was there, falling and feeling ashamed, shouting and ordering them to move right away. As she landed on the ground, her colleagues didn't expect that Lord Xiao's passive bad luck ability had been triggered once again. They remarked that although it was a hilarious ability, they respected her in their hearts. That's why they controlled themselves from laughing, saying they were used to it. While she lay there on the ground in an awkward position, she commanded them, shouting about why they were just standing there and asking them to move. Meanwhile, General Zhao Xin was on his way, not far from there. He noticed something and was surprised to see a trap rope set up. Seeing it, he rashly stopped his horse from stepping on it. But because it was unexpected and he had only just seen it, his army didn't see it and was slow to react. That's why some of his army stepped on it. While shouting to stop their horses, it was too late. The traps were triggered, causing an explosion. Some of his army died, and others were injured because of that explosion. One injured soldier was in a helplessly prone position when Xiao's army killed him by throwing a kunai into his back. They started to ambush them, jumping into the trees where they were hiding. Seeing this, Zhao Xin's army was surprised. While the attackers were in the air, they continued throwing kunai at them. The rest of Zhao Xin's army defended themselves to counter the sudden attacks of their enemy. Now that Xiao's army had landed, they stopped General Zhao Xin from escaping the scene. They declared that, as an order from their Lord Xiao, they wouldn't let anyone escape, so they wouldn't let him go as he wished. General Zhao Xin shouted at them, asking how dare they, mere rebels, intercept the imperial edict of the emperor. But before he could finish speaking, he was terribly annihilated by being beheaded by Zhao. That evening, her colleagues were terrified by what they saw, a scary scene enacted by their Lord Xiao. Afterward, one soldier from Zhao Xin's army escaped, but he didn't expect the enemy to catch up so quickly. Seeing a wing in front of him, he was shocked, and above him, Xiao was in mid-air, talking to him, asking why he didn't know what was better for him. As the man looked up at her in mid-air, he was scared and sweating while panicking. In just a blink of an eye, Xiao appeared behind him, pointing a dagger at his neck. Terrified and sweating, he recognized her as a member of the Kun Guard. Without further ado, Xiao beheaded him as if it were nothing. As she finished dealing with the man, one of her soldiers appeared, kneeling and presenting a box where the imperial decree was kept. Addressing her as Lord, he opened the box and the decree was inside. Xiao said that as she thought, it was sure enough that the imperial decree was found on the last person she beheaded. She also told him that the decree ordered Prince Tu-Su to commit suicide, as issued by the despotic ruler. As she said this, she took off her hood. The man responded, asking if their actions were not overstepping, given that it was the emperor's decree. Xiao, angered, threw a kunai past his face, terrifying the witness. She reminded him that it had only been a few days of peace, and he had forgotten the original mission of their kun guard. Lecturing the man, she said that where there's light, there's shadow, and only the strong can protect the weak. They, the kun guard, operate in the darkness to protect their late emperor Qianjun. She said they could act ruthlessly and bloodily, but they must not forget that their loyalty lies with the previous emperor. Xiao clenched the fake decree in her hand, her voice filled with determination. She said that when the previous emperor was alive, he established Tu-Su as the crown prince. Now that the previous emperor had passed away, they must naturally follow his will and support Tu-Su. Her hands soon crushed the fake decree, her anger and hatred reaching their limits. Not only had Tu-Ye usurped the throne, but he also wanted to harm the crown prince. The man didn't dare to breathe as he watched the pieces of paper fly in the air. Xiao continued, saying that he was the enemy that they, the kun guard, must eliminate. She then ordered all of her soldiers to clean this place thoroughly and not let anyone know about it. The guy figures responded in unison. Understood. Xiao mentally calculated that Crown Prince Tu-Su was in the northern region. It would take him at least 4 days to return to the capital. Even if he didn't stop, she looked into the distance and spoke to the wind and clouds. In those 4 days, Tu-Ye would not discover her. Slowly pulling down her mask, she revealed her entire face. Before that, she must kill him with her own hands. The words Tu-Ye carried a heavy, deathly aura. On the other side, Tu-Ye suddenly sneezed for no reason. He rubbed his nose a few times before opening his mouth and saying, if there was another beautiful woman thinking about him. While his 2 concubines played cards, Aju and Asha, they also turned to look at him in confusion. 5 days later, in Zhao Zhou's residence, the old man paced back and forth in his mansion, unable to sit still. He stared out the door, waiting for news. That idiot Zhao Xin, he thought. It's been 5 days already, and there's no news at all. At that moment, Li Tianyuan entered from outside and asked the old man Zhao what he was waiting for. Old Zhao was startled and exclaimed, Li Tianyuan. He responded, stammering, No, I'm not waiting for anything. What are you doing here so late? Li Tianyuan then remembered his purpose and smiled. Raising his hand, he said, I'm here to bring you good news, old Zhao, and also some bad news. Old Zhao opened his eyes wide with curiosity and asked, What bad news could there be? Li Tianyuan smirked, and then his face changed into a contemptuous expression as he announced, Your plan to fake the imperial decree and kill Tu-Su has failed. Old Zhao Zi's waited in disbelief. He angrily rushed over and grabbed Li Tianyuan by the collar, shouting, You're talking nonsense. Li Tianyuan pushed him away and said, Old Zhao, we're on the same side. You don't need to deny it. He then began to explain the whole story to old Zhao. Zhao Xin had been killed outside the city 5 days ago, and the one who did it was the leader of the Kun Guard, Xiao. Old man Zhao was once again shocked. Why would Xiao, the Kun Guard, the shadow army directly controlled by the previous emperor, do this? Old Zhao wondered. Li Tianyuan suddenly burst out laughing and said, Let's not talk about that for now. Let's focus on the good news, he continued. Although Xiao killed Zhao Xin, she mistakenly thought that the decree was issued by Tu-Ye. Her next target is Tu-Ye. Old Zhao started to laugh as soon as he heard half of it. Good, good. So great, he exclaimed. Very suitable for my intentions. At that moment, old Zhao saw Li Tianyuan about to leave and called out to him. Wait a minute. How did the Kun Guard, which has always been a lone wolf, know about such a secret? Li Tianyuan turned around, revealing hidden depth, and replied, He has his own ways. Old Zhao doesn't need to worry about it. After finishing speaking, Li Tianyuan looked out at the dark sky, vast and unfathomable for thousands of miles. Old Zhao's luck this time is not bad, he said. It can also be said that it is a blessing in disguise. We can take this opportunity to break the balance our Majesty has created between Tu Su, you, and me. In the night wind, Li Tianyuan's voice echoed. Their Majesty is holding a harem banquet in the Qianyuan Hall tonight. There will be many people. According to my calculations, Xiao might make a move against our Majesty. Tonight will be the best opportunity. Indeed, there was already movement in the Qianyuan Hall. Xiao seemed to be wearing a black cloak and had come alone to the bedroom where Tu Ye was resting in the middle of the night. Li Tianyuan decided to intervene a little to make the Imperial Guard relax their vigilance tonight. Right now, Li Tianyuan continued, the convey represents Tu Su. So whether the assassination succeeds or fails, Tu Su will bear the infamy of regicide. And the more Li Tianyuan spoke, the more obvious the smile on his face became. A person who lost his righteous status, even with an army in his hands, was no longer to be feared. Old man Zhao was suddenly enlightened. He immediately understood everything and laughed happily. He praised Li Tianyuan without reservation, saying that old Li was brilliant. This plan is truly killing two birds with one stone, and saying not only will he kill Tu Ye, but you will also make Tu Su bear the infamy. When it comes to cunning, no one can compare to him, he said. While Li Tianyuan stepped forward and patted old Zhao's shoulder, he also said something. However, what he said just now was only the ideal situation. The final outcome still depended on fate. Old Zhao didn't understand why Li Tianyuan said that, and asked him, "What do you mean by that?" Old Zhao thought it was a perfect plan, and wondered what else could go wrong. Li Tianyuan didn't want to beat around the bush anymore. He directly turned around and waved goodbye. He had just come to say hello, that's why he came there. Excusing himself, he had to leave now. As soon as he walked outside, Li Tianyuan's heart felt as bright as the moon. The only thing he couldn't control in the whole plan was their Majesty. According to Li Tianyuan's previous calculations, Ah Zhu and Ah Sha hated the Du family to the bone. Tonight in the Qianyuan Hall, the two would act according to the situation and take advantage of the chaos to attack their Majesty. However, Li Tianyuan still couldn't let go of his worries. Although he said they were smart and agile, were they really His Majesty's opponents in terms of scheming? Thinking that, Li Tianyuan's figure gradually sank into the darkness, and so did his heavy heart. He hoped that this was just his own paranoia. In the Qianyuan Hall, the cosplay harem, a source of constant annoyance for Tu Ye, had finally gathered countless beauties. Ah Sha was the only one who was able to make it. The intricate costumes filled the room, and the atmosphere buzzed with introductions. Some women exchanged pleasantries like close sisters, while others engaged in subtle competition. My sister, looking stunning tonight, blushed as compliments flew around. Even if she dressed better, she teased, saying she wouldn't surpass her charm that would still attract their emperor's attention. He might even summon them tonight. Legend painted the harem as an age-old battlefield where women of nobility fought for power. The facade of sisterhood couldn't mask the simmering ambition within each heart. Each woman desired to be the most captivating, resorting to sly remarks and subtle digs at their rivals. Those gaudy outfits won't win the emperor's favor, one scoffed. Looking cute and naive won't suffice. Their revealing dresses are a miscalculation. Tonight, she held the winning card. Amidst the scheming, a sudden commotion drew everyone's attention. The Kun Guard, Xiao, usually adorned in ostentatiousness, had chosen to blend in tonight. Her dark, utilitarian clothing contrasted sharply with the vibrant costumes around her. The jingling anklets accompanying her every step added a peculiar sensuality that some found distasteful. Kiyu scanned the room, her gaze lingering on each woman. "What's wrong with them?" she muttered, sensing a hidden tension. They clearly lacked martial arts training, yet she felt a chilling presence, a murderous intent. The cold stares from the harem made it even more terrifying. Two women whispered nearby. "Who is she? She's dressed so provocatively. We've never seen her before. Is she some palace maid trying to change her fate?" Xiao stood there frozen, listening to their every word. Another woman approached her and sneered, addressing her as little sister. "Your outfit is quite creative," she said. "But without power or backing in the harem, you're just nothing." The others joined in with laughter. Xiao murmured that as the leader of the Coup Guards, she had spent her life on the battlefield. She'd never heard such insults before. She trembled with anger, but she knew she couldn't jeopardize the mission. She had to stay calm and focus on the target. At that moment, a guard announced, "Their Majesty has arrived." Tu Ye, dressed in his usual shorts, entered with Aju and Asha. He waved and greeted everyone cheerfully, blowing kisses and saying he loved them all. The harem, which had been filled with chatter just moments ago, was now silent. All eyes were on Tu Ye. They screamed, "Oh no! We can't take it! Your Majesty, we love you too!" They even expressed their desire to bear his child. While Tu Ye looked around, he noticed a new face. His gaze landed on Xiao, who stood in the middle of the crowd. Her stats were impressive: political power 41, Machiavellianism 65, martial prowess 93, conquest 85, charisma 85, rebellion 80. This Xiao was introduced as the leader of the Kun Guard, a former guard of the late Emperor Qianjun's. Skilled in ambushes, theft, and assassination, she was loyal to Prince Tusu and plotting to kill Tu Ye to help Tusu ascend to the throne. While our MC was observing her, Xiao realized that Tu Ye was looking at her, thinking if he was interested in her. Without hesitation, she drew her dagger and lunged at him, shouting, "Die, tyrant!" While our MC took off his sunglasses and widened his eyes at Xiao's sudden actions, she charged forward, shouting, "Tyrant, die!" Seeing this, Aju and Asha on the side immediately shouted loudly, saying that she was so bold. How dare she speak such treasonous words in front of their Majesty? But then they suddenly realized, could that be the essence of cosplay? Recalling the events in the Chenyuan Hall 5 days ago, our MC gathered everyone and announced to his concubines that he had decided to hold a cosplay banquet in the harem in 5 days. Because in ancient times, no one knew what the word cosplay meant, a woman in the crowd asked him, addressing him as their Majesty, if his concubine was ignorant. She asked, "What is a cosplay party?" Tu Ye had already anticipated this question. He happily took out a Lolita dress and showed it to them, stating that cosplay involved playing a character. At that time, they just needed to wear the most beautiful costumes and play different characters to have fun with him, all while laughing. Everyone looked at each other, but no one dared to ask again. Now, as they recalled it, Aju and Asha shouted in the hall, saying that the essence of cosplay lies in the excitement and stimulation of the characters they play. Xiao got very close to Tu Ye and shouted that she was there to see him. Tu Ye pretended to be scared, performing his chapter to act according to the rules of his harem cosplay. Seeing his reaction, everyone thought it was just a stimulating game. They started to grit their teeth and curse, saying that the woman was playing an assassin. This kind of character was full of danger and could easily arouse the conquering nature of men. They said she was really scheming. Xiao suddenly realized that someone was rushing towards her. She looked over with cold eyes. A woman rushed up to her, saying that if she had discovered the assassin, she would not let them succeed. The girl landed near her, saying to their Majesty that she, as a concubine, would catch the assassin for him. Xiao grabbed the girl's hand with one hand and threw her away. After dealing with one person, Xiao couldn't help but widen her eyes and think, was that girl crazy? She clearly didn't have any cultivation. The remaining girls saw the girl fall, and they wondered if this was what it meant to play a character. Realizing it, dozens of them rushed forward like a flood, fighting for the spotlight, saying that they couldn't let her steal the show. A bunch of our MC's girls surrounded Xiao, making it impossible for her to approach Tu Ye. They thought they didn't want to play a character anymore. They wondered if the girl wanted to use this evil pagan way to attract their Majesty's attention. They said there was no way for that. They also reminded her that she needed to understand the rules. Did she fight first? Did she ask for their opinion or not? In this harem, they had to rely on their hierarchy. Now, because of that, all the girls took turns next. They took on the role of bodyguards and shouted, "Let's protect their Majesty and capture the assassin. Don't let her get close to their Majesty." one of the concubines said to Xiao that if she wanted to kill their majesty, she had to step over his body first. Xiao was pulled further and further away. She was extremely indignant, looking at him still standing peacefully in the distance. Her heart was extremely disgusted with that insatiable and promiscuous guy. This group of harem concubines was willing to volunteer to protect him. She wondered what was so good about him. But since they were here, if it was their choice, she wouldn't show them mercy anymore. She was about to start beheading them when the warning from his system constantly rang in his head. It said that it was not good. Those concubines were his guarantee to play the role of the emperor. They were important human beings and important human resources in the mission of defeating the country. After a moment of thought, he spoke, asking her to stop, and released all of his girl. And hearing this, Xiao stopped and looked at him over there, thinking that our MC was not only didn't take the opportunity to run away, but also stopped her, as praising him, which also had some courage. All his girl all looked at him with affectionate eyes, saying to him that their majesty faced the assassin for them, and says that it was so touching to them. Others says that she was not afraid of death. As long as she can remember her name on our MC body, that was enough for them. Then, Xiao looked at him and said, that her condition. You want to die for them, as long as him use his life in exchange for theirs. She will happily kill a few less people, as she says that. Tuyi thinking secretly calculated that it wouldn't work, 'cause he couldn't die before using up all his accumulated national power points. Otherwise the mission to destroy the country would fail. After a moment of careful thought, he calmly said, sorry for it. It's not time for me to die now. Xiao clenched her fists and replied that he was only good at talking. But Tu Yi slowly stepped forward and said that he could negotiate by abdicating the throne for Tu Su. He asked her if the purpose of her visit was to help Tu Su ascend the throne. Xiao felt like she was afraid for the first time. Her eyes widened in disbelief. She wondered how he knew his identity and even her purpose. He knew everything about her. Could it be a trap? Thinking that, Qiyu lost her patience and stared at him, asking him without any respect, what is your purpose? What are you up to? Tu Ye smirked and burst out laughing and said casually, let's flip the cards and admit he won't pretend anymore. He slowly sat down on the ground and continued talking, saying his purpose was to be a lazy and incompetent emperor. AMD saying, how can a throne be better than the beauties in the harem? He say, and if he have no talent for governing the country, and no desire to be an emperor, he might as well abdicate to someone more capable. And because of our MC revelation, the group of beautiful concubines were stunned and couldn't believe Tu Ye's words. And at this moment, the bracelet downfall system on his arm vibrated and a system notification appeared, saying that the host's behavior has suddenly triggered the national destruction event. The system describes the original history of Tu Yu and General Zhao Kuangyin of the later Zhou dynasty. With a large army, they launched a coup at Chenqiao Station, forcing Emperor Zhou Gongdi Chaizongshun to abdicate. This event is known as the Chenqiao coup. The conditions for triggering the Chenqiao rebirth are as follows. First, a general with a large army leads troops outside. Second, the host is threatened and forced to abdicate to the general. If the abdication is successful, the event is considered complete, and he loses 1,000 national power points. As the system explained it to him, he wondered if he had made the right bet this time. He originally only wanted to keep the harem, but he didn't expect to trigger a national destruction event. After deducting 1,000 points, his national power points would be depleted. While Xiao was still standing in the distance, looking at Tu Ye, she saw him sitting motionless for a long time. She was still wondering if he was telling the truth. Could there really be someone in this world who doesn't crave power? This must be a trick, she thought. She couldn't be fooled by that. Now Xiao waited no longer and spoke up strongly, leaving Tu Ye no way out. She said to him, forget it. Whether it's true or not, you have to abdicate to Prince Tu Su anyway. If I kill you and let him ascend the throne. As she said that, our MC opened and closed his other eyes, looking at Qiyu with a puzzled heart. And our MC thinking why she insisted to kill him. He realized he had to increase the intensity of his deception. His previous words were not convincing enough. So he added more weight and said to her, killing him now will only make Tu Su bear the name of a tyrant. Even if he becomes emperor, it will be unjustified. I'm doing this for my beloved crown prince. This move was indeed very effective, and Xiao's eyes almost filled with tears. As she looked at Tu Ye without the same viciousness anymore, she suddenly recalled the words that the late emperor, whom she respected, had once told her. Saying, Xiao, I built the Khan dynasty and pacified the war in the north. Do you think I am a good emperor? Xiao bowed her head respectfully and replied, Your Majesty is both a civil and military genius, decisive and ruthless. You are considered a wise ruler through the ages. The late emperor looked at the distant sky with a heavy heart. It's a pity that my talent is only suitable for winning the world in times of chaos. The Khan dynasty may not need an emperor like me in the future. Xiao raised her head without hesitation and answered very quickly, as if it was from the bottom of her heart, saying to him, No, that the Khan dynasty will always need an emperor like him as a majesty. The late emperor suddenly turned around and looked at Xiao with a serious expression. No, I know my days are numbered. But this may not be a good thing for the Khan dynasty. He turned his head again and looked at the sky, at the country that he had fought for all his life. Now he only hoped that the successor, even if he is not as talented as him, or even lazy and absurd, can be tolerant, not fight, and not be greedy for immediate benefits. He did not hesitate to express his innermost thoughts in front of Xiao, his trusted guard. At that time, I naturally thought that the successor the late emperor was talking about was Prince Tu Su. Xiao suddenly stopped her reminiscence. A thought suddenly appeared in her mind, now that she thought about it. Tu Yi laziness, absurdity, tolerance, and lack of fighting spirit were very much in line with the late emperor's vision. But the next second, she dismissed the thought herself. No, that wouldn't do. She strongly disagreed. Crown Prince Tu Su was the eldest son of the late emperor and the heir to the great Khan dynasty. How could she let Tu Ye's few words waver her? Putting aside her thoughts, Xiao angrily took a step towards Tu Ye. She decided to subdue him first, and then take him to Prince Tu Su. When she reached Tu Ye, she said, In that case, I'll have to trouble you to take a trip to Lintong City in the northern prefecture to complete the abdication ceremony in front of Prince Tu Su. Who knew that Tu Ye, who was smiling foolishly on the outside, was also extremely happy and excited inside. This was great. He just needed to see Tu Su and complete the abdication ceremony. Just as Tu Yi was about to stand up, a voice called out, Wait! A saw stepped forward and blocked Tu Ye's path, saying fiercely, You want to threaten His Highness, and saying that, Have you asked the talisman in her hand? Tu Yi was stunned, and exclaimed, A saw! A saw held up several talismans and stepped forward with a powerful aura. Seeing this scene, Xiao felt a sense of resentment in her heart. She had been careless. There was a master of magic by his side. She was still too naive. Everything he had just said about the crown prince was just to deceive her and buy time. Thinking of this, Xiao felt extremely angry. She unconsciously clenched the dagger in her hand. This tyrant was really good at playing with people's hearts. In Xiao's mind, Xiao was a man of his word. In Xiao's eyes at the moment, Tu Ye was like a demon hiding behind a saw, looking at her with a smug smile. But in reality, Tu Ye was looking at a saw standing in front of him with confusion. He didn't understand what was going on. Before Tu Ye could calm down, a Cho put his hand on Tu Ye's shoulder from behind. Your Majesty, don't worry. A saw's strength is not low. Her strategy can match that assassin. With her protecting your Majesty, the assassin will have no chance. Hearing this, Tu Ye was shocked, and he also was secretly annoyed, and saying who needed her protection. He didn't need them to do such unnecessary things. At this time, a Cho looked at Tu Ye's face distorted with anger and thought to herself, it was really the right decision to let a saw act in time just now. Turning back to one night before Li Tianyuan brought a Cho and a saw into the palace. They had a tense conversation. At that time, Li Tianyuan asked, Do you know what your mission is after entering the palace and approaching Tu Ye? A Chu's eyes turned cold as she said, That she know. It is to find an opportunity to kill the tyrant Tuye and avenge her families. Li Tianyuan laughed twice. The blood feud of the Khan Huang Tuthian Emperor destroying your two families cannot be resolved by killing Tuye, cause their final mission is to make the great Khan dynasty perish. Therefore, for now, they must make sure that Tuye survives. Asura was very confused after hearing this and looked at Li Tianyuan. Ans Li Tianyuan's face remained expressionless as he continued. Kuund saying Thag Tu-ye was originally the most stupid and incompetent prince, that he previously supported him to ascend the throne while Tu-su was leading the troops outside, precisely to change the dynasty of the great Khan in his hands. Asura spoke loudly, saying if he want them to stay by Tu-ye's side, confuse and bewitch him, and make him become a king who loses his country. Only then did a smile appear on Li Tianyuan's face, and saying Achu, that she are indeed quick-witted, cause she understand with just a few words of him, and saying he realized as only his initial plan. After Tu-ye ascended the throne, his actions became like those of a different person. His previous incompetence seemed to be fake, just to make him unable to see through him. Therefore, they must approach and observe him on his behalf, and find his weaknesses. As he spoke, Li Tianyuan's eyes filled with anger, and his hands clenched unconsciously. Seeing this, Acho felt fear and sighed in her heart. This was the first time she had seen this expression on her Master Li's face. Was he excited about it? Li Tianyuan looked at Acho and instructed, saying, Acho, you are smart. You can act on your own by his side. Asura is proficient in magic. Although she has strong strength, her mind is simple. And saying that, there is only one thing she need to remember. Thag she never let him and Tu-ye stand on the same side. After hearing this, the two women understood what they had to do. While Tu-ye was watching, the two of them fight with a worried expression. Acho, who saw it from behind, had a different feeling. Master Li was indeed right. The two of them had a different feeling. That Master Li was indeed right. That Tu-ye's incompetence was all an act. At this moment, ahead of them, Asha and Asura were constantly exchanging moves. Seeing this scene, Acho guessed from afar. This time, he opened the harem for this peculiar costume party, the main purpose being to use this to make contact with Kungard, and then connect with Duda to deal with their Master Li. Unfortunately, her plan has already been discovered by Master Li. As Tu-ye fearfully called for everyone to stop, Achu's eyes behind her were gleaming with fear. At this moment, Tu-ye felt something and turned to look at Achu. Achu, pretending innocence, looked away, thinking to herself that she would soon be found out because she was too pleased with herself. Tu-ye also blamed himself, almost forgetting that Achu and Asha were both under the control of Master Li, cause Li Tianyuan wanted to make himself a puppet. So those girls would certainly try to stop him from handing over the throne to Tu-su. He must control Asha actions in order to successfully bring back Chen Qiao birth. Unexpectedly, the system announced that a powerful army commander was outside, and the host felt threatened and had to abdicate. If the abdication succeeded, it would be considered a completed task and deduct 1,000 points from the host's accumulated national power. While thinking, Tu-ye's eyes lit up, almost forgetting Asha's weakness. Seeing Asha retreat from Xiao attack, Tu-ye decided to go back to. He precisely walked up to hug Asha, holding her tightly with one hand around her waist. If she was touched by someone of the opposite gender in a sensitive area like her chin, her moral integrity would collapse. Duda lightly touched Asa's chin with his hand and said, "He is the ruler. How can he let the woman he loved take risks for him?" Being touched by Tu-ye, Asha's face gradually turned red, and then her eyes slowly lost consciousness. At this moment, Tu-ye looked at Xiao screaming to hurry up and save her. Seize him in this opportunity, Xiao walked with a knife towards Tu-ye. And upon hearing this Tu-ye, she was confused, not understanding what was happening. This must be the evil plan of tyrant under Xiao. Gaze Duda seemed like a pervert beckoning continuously. What was there to hesitate for? It would be too late by the time the guards arrived in Xiao's heart. He thought first ignore him, catch him first, then consider Tu-ye. Also looked at Xiao with an expectant gaze. Then Xiao raised the knife to Tuya's neck and Tuya felt extremely relieved as his final purpose had been achieved. He released a Sha onto the ground. But this action unintentionally triggered a Sha's second hidden attribute. When touched by a man, she would fall into a state of collapse, viewing any other woman that the man touched as an enemy, leading to a loss of self-control. At this point, Asura was completely out of control. Her aura erupting, Nhu Qiu was also very surprised, as Asura, filled with anger in her eyes, looked at Xiao and said, "How dare you compete with me for a man?" When Asura woke up from fainting, she was like a completely different person, resembling a fierce spirit step by step walking towards Xiao. Xiao felt something was off. Why was this person so terrifying? She drew her sword out in front of her to defend herself. After activating her second weakness, Asura seemed to become extremely powerful. She immediately raised her hand to recite a spell. Using her specialty, she said, "The fire of true samadhi." Immediately, the talisman on her hand turned into a fire, spreading and gradually covering her entire arm. Then, Asura leapt up high, wanting to strike a powerful blow to defeat Xiao. Xiao was horrified when she saw this terrifying power, unable to avoid her. However, seeing this, Tuye also looked in shock towards Asura, and suddenly the urgent alarm sounded, announcing that if Xiao were killed, the plan to bring back Chen Qiao rebirth would completely fail. Upon hearing that her plan would fail, Tuye quickly rushed towards Xiao, pushing her aside. Tuye hugged Xiao's her chest, and they both jumped in one direction as a Sha attack struck down. Then a terrorist explosion occurred, and the entire palace was engulfed in flames. In the urgency, Tuye inadvertently kissed Xiao, both of them shocked. Xiao, trained since childhood to be a strong warrior, had never experienced such a thing before. She was surprised and blushed as she shouted at Tuye. Just as she angrily wanted to kill Tuye, her head hit a stone on the ground, and she instantly fainted. In the midst of smoke and confusion, a Chu saw this scene and was also shocked. Tuye, still not grasping the current situation, received a notification and saying that his host's actions had caused the failure of the mission to bring back Chen Qiao rebirth and triggered the event. King Qin surrounds the pillars. History in this world showed that the assassin liked to assassinate the main official on the palace rooftop. But the main official evaded with his advanced movement skills. Then, with the help of a cold-hearted and indifferent doctor, who accidentally threw a medicine box on the assassin's head, the assassination completely failed. The system continued to activate a new mission. Initiating the mission, the main official of the palace failed. But the mission continued to activate a new mission. King Qin surrounds the pillars. 1. There is an assassin on the rooftop who wants to assassinate the host. 2. When the assassin has a third character who is proficient in medical skills present at the scene. 3. The third character with medical skills intervenes with the assassin. If the she defeats the assassin, the mission will be considered complete, and the host will receive 1,000 points of national power accumulation. Finally, and the system left a emphasized message him, while Tuye, in his anger, and he clenched his teeth in frustration, and asking, why did the assassination event turn into a messy situation, deducting points instead of adding more? The smoke gradually dissipated, and a Chu observed from behind and saw that Tuye was still standing strong without any damage, while Xiao and Asha were completely unconscious. Seeing this scene, she could only open her eyes in amazement. The power was too strong. Both masters had fallen, but he was unharmed. And thinking of what Mr. Li said to her, that she gradually beginning to understand his expression when mentioning this Tuye name. A little later, Xiao also began to gradually wake up. She opened her eyes and saw Tuye standing in front of her. And she say, as a leader of assassins, Xiao quickly regained her composure and looked around, asking where she was.